week in racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael and Magic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of their shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last thoughts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic. Mike, wake up, buddy. Mike.
No, I'm Mike.
We're live, buddy. Sorry.
No, sorry. I was watching Blinkers Off like 5 minutes. I must have dozed off there.
Yeah, sorry about that to everybody who was waiting for the True Good Show to show up here to talk about the actual winners at Kentucky Downs. But we're live here with Magic Mike Show 308. Happy to have you aboard. Happy to have you with us. Mr. Samich, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm doing pretty good. I'm feeling good about Kentucky Downs. A lot of horses that have decent morning line prices seem to be going off at really short prices, which is quite frustrating. But other than that, been a pretty good day. Missed a couple races, but had a couple nice pick threes. It's getting that momentum rolling. Got a couple tournaments going, so feeling good. Looking forward to having it back. And yeah, Friday's a nice little kind of day off from Kentucky Downs, just to get your feet back into it.
Yeah, just to kind of take a breath and make you forget the fact that you were so close to cashing a pick five that you missed by that much in a photo that when they hit the wire, you thought for sure one horse won. And then, no, this is apparently the camera angle we're using, not this one. So,
well, to be fair to Kentucky Downs, like the camera, like here's the finish line, right? Try and do this right. The camera's like this, so the inside horses get a clear advantage when you're looking at it live on the camera. So then when you see the photo finish, the outside horse is much further ahead than you expect. The second race, which I'm assuming is the one you're talking about, the two got the bob of a lifetime. I mean, full saddlecloth behind the 11 horse, and the two's nose just hit down. I think maybe in the mile and 70-yard race, that horse was ahead for 1 inch of the whole race. And it happened to be when they took the photo finish. So, it happens, is what it is. I got the benefit of a photo a little bit later in the car with the 10, so that was kind of nice. But it definitely leaves you in suspense. I've never seen a horse have their saddlecloth off, the jockey halfway back, they have to run to get the jockey to get him back in the winner's circle photo because everyone thought that the two lost that photo. Everyone thought the 11 won, including everyone involved with the two. So pretty crazy, but it's a little Kentucky Downs for you.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's fun to do once a year, but I'm glad that it's short because I get so mad every time with those damn camera angles in the stretch. You think you know where the wire is at, you don't know where the wire is at. You never know. I could watch an entire week's worth of cards. Never once will I understand where the wire is at.
Well, and then you have that head-on view. So you got like that side angle, and you think that's where the end is, and then you get a head-on, and you have no clue like who's making a move. You're trying to follow the shadows, and then all of a sudden you cut to the pan again. It definitely messes with your head a little bit. There's more camera angles and undulations on that turf course, but it's still fun to play because you get literally with the Snapper St. Clair wins yesterday at 3-2, and the pick five pays $196,000. So I'm willing to give up some of the normal camera angles and all that jazz for the fact that you can get that big of a score with a 3-2 favorite in the sequence.
That's crazy. Dennis chimed in with his worst thing. We won't touch on that. Sorry about that, Dennis. Mike, what's the best thing that you saw this week?
Right here, baby. Canterbury Park tonight. Pick five, $32,000 carryover for one of their bigger stakes nights. I am excited to dive into that. As soon as this is over, I'm going to start handicapping me some Canterbury Park. They've got low takeout for that late pick five. I'm expecting a couple $100,000 in the pool. There's decent sized fields the whole way. So I'm looking forward to looking through some Minnesota PPs after this show.
Boy, that's not the first time that's been said on this show that you're excited to dive into Canterbury. I know you have a lot of fun handicapping it. Was it supposed to be this weekend or next weekend that you were thinking about heading out there?
It was going to be this next Thursday, but it doesn't look like it's going to work with the schedule. I've got a tournament next Saturday, Sunday that's online, and so I would feel bad if I travel on Wednesday, play a tournament at Canterbury on Thursday, fly back on Friday, and then play a tournament Saturday and Sunday. So I think I'm just going to stick to the Saturday, Sunday next week. It's the big one, 57 people, about $200,000 in the prize pool, 10 NHC and BC seats. So hopefully we can top 10 that puppy.
Did you happen to see the new trailer for the Matrix movie that came out this morning?
I did not see it. No, I know you were
Okay.
very excited about it. I kind of didn't get into the Matrix. The first one was good. The second one was meh. The third one I didn't watch. So I kind of fell off that train a little bit early.
I like to ignore that the third one happened, that the Animatrix happened. First two I like a lot. I actually like the second one better than the first because that big giant highway scene that they have. But I'm one of those people that, especially with movies that have been, the Matrix original one came out 22 years ago. Holy shit, 22 years ago. So I'm like, all right, that movie should probably just be left in the past. Like, move on. I don't like when these studios keep making things that are 20 years in the past. Let's bring them back. This trailer was epic. This trailer sucked me right back in. I'm fully on board for what this movie is going to be. Luckily, it's one of the ones that HBO Max is going to be putting in available for us at the same time it goes into theaters. So I'll be able to see it without having to pay extra for it. But I'm really jazzed up for it. It seems like it gets back to a lot of what the first one was, which was lots of fighting within the Matrix. I never was someone who loved all the lore and mythology of like what happens when you get outside the Matrix. I just liked everything that happened within it. So it seems like a lot of this is going to be within that same type bubble. So I'm pretty excited about that. But I definitely wasn't one of those like trench coat people, like the black trench coat and the sunglasses. And yeah, that was never me.
I could see it though. I could see you doing that. Maybe a Halloween costume. Maybe if we win the fantasy league one year, we can have like a Neo and the agent dude as the two people dress up for it or something.
Robert Witt says he's waiting for
Yeah.
John Wick 4. Listen, Keanu looks like he just stepped off the John Wick set into the Matrix. Like the long hair and everything. I'm like, he might as well still be doing guns akimbo. So
I can get me into some John Wick 4. I have thoroughly enjoyed the first three of that one.
I still haven't started it. I know I would love it. I can't get past if you told me in the first movie when it is that his dog dies and I can just like skip that like 30 seconds or whatever. I know that's the whole inciting incident for him.
Yeah.
I just don't want to see that part. If I can get past that part, I'm sure I'll love it.
It's like 5 minutes in. That's the beauty.
Okay.
The entire thing is the whole movie is based on his dog dying. Now 3 movies are all based on because someone killed his dog. That's what like starts this whole train of events. It's crazy. It's quite enjoyable though. All 3 are pretty good.
I'm apologizing in advance to everybody. The beautiful thing about, like I talked about last week about my son starting daycare, the other side of that sword is that he brings germs back that we are not used to. So we're on the upswing. At least I am. Mrs. Magic still suffering a little bit, but I'm on the upswing from it. We got tested. We don't have COVID, so thankfully it's not that. But I'm a little scratchy. You might hear me cough a little bit here, so I apologize in advance. But we are looking at the late pick 4 sequence at Kentucky Downs. Big fields, Mike. 3 graded stakes races. 2 of these are Breeders' Cup winning your ins. Lots of fun to talk about. Do you want to talk about trends before? No, let's just get into it. Riders up. I was going to say we should talk about some trends and ideas or handicapping tips that you like at Kentucky Downs, but I feel like we're going to talk about those anyways as we go through this. So we'll just jump right in, starting things off for the late pick 4 sequence on Saturday, September 11th. At Kentucky Downs, this is the Grade 3 $1 million FanDuel Turf Sprint Stakes. Field of 11 males and 1 female, and an also eligible. Going 6 furlongs on the turf course here. It's a Breeders' Cup winner for the Turf Sprint. Favorites are the number 7 Casa Creed at 7-2, a Mike Somich favorite, and number 9 Got Stormy at 9-2 is a Magic favorite. They're both exiting the 4-star Dave. You're not using either one of them.
No, man. I mean, I would love to get a Casa Creed saddle cloth if I could get one, but I have no interest in using them in this race. I think at this point you gotta kind of admit that Got Stormy is better than Casa Creed, and that especially if the turf is firm. And so if they're both in the race, I don't think you can use Casa Creed unless you're using Got Stormy at this point, because Casa Creed's lost twice now, maybe even 3 times, to Got Stormy at this point. However, we do have, I'm going to say probably the best turf sprinter in training in this race right now, in Imprimis, and I am utterly shocked that one of the 2 people on this podcast are not using it. If you could give me 6-1 right now on the 12 Imprimis, I would take it all day, every day, and then twice on Saturday, because look, the last race was first off a layoff. The horse got bumped a little bit, didn't quite get the run it wanted, didn't quite get the trip it wanted. Imprimis has won over Kentucky Downs, which I think is wildly important. If you've won over this track, it's a definite plus, especially at this level. Horse won the Grade 3 Turf Sprint last year. I think we've heard of that race before, although Magic's going to tell you it's over a soft turf. But I'll be able to rebut that too, so I'm looking forward to it. Look, when this horse is right, and he's the best turf sprinter in the U.S. You're getting second off a layoff here. This sets up well. It's exactly the same path we took last year, going from the Troy into the Grade 3 turf sprint. I think Imprimis at 6-1 is an absolute steal. Irad's aboard. I mean, this horse is a monster when it's right, and he's right now.
Well, and he has that nice work at Palm Meadows turf course, going 5 furlongs on their turf in under 59 seconds. So it seems like he's on board. First of all, I don't think you're getting 6-1. I would say that I think this is your second betting choice in the race. I think Got Stormy's favored. I think Imprimis is second. I think Casa Creed slips to third. It was over soft turf last year, and it's going to be firm because expecting firm because it's not raining today or the next 6 days in Franklin, Kentucky. This horse has a lot of talent. I'm not going to argue with you on that one. I just don't love him in this spot for what I think 6-1. We're talking a different story. That was part of it for me. Because Got Stormy is my top pick here, I didn't want to use 2 very short-priced horses here. We don't really have to talk about her too much. She won the 4-Star Dave for the second time in 3 years. She won the Kentucky Downs Ladies Sprint Stakes over a soft turf last year. That was 6.5. She's cutting back to 6. Should be perfectly fine in this position. I don't love the price. Like I said, I think she's going to be the favorite, so I didn't want to go with her on that one, but what about the horse just to the inside of Imprimis, the 11, Stubbins? This is one that I actually thought you were going to use, especially 12-1. This is a horse who has some success over Kentucky Downs as well. He's picking up Luis Saez. Doesn't have the win, but he was second in the Franklin-Simpson Stakes, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. I love the fact that this horse, even though he hasn't won this year, he hasn't won actually since, back to 2019. He had some injury issues. You can see that in his form here and how he keeps missing starts. This is his second time starting in 2021. Doug O'Neill was working him on the turf at Del Mar, 47-1 around the dogs on August 29th, and then you shipped him out here early rather than keep training at Del Mar or try and go to Santa Anita. Send him to Keeneland to work at the training track just to make sure that he is going to be fit and ready for this race. Luis Saez picking up the mount to me says that this horse is probably going to be pretty live here. I'm curious why you didn't use him.
Because this is not an easy sequence, and I had to trim somewhere, and I like Imprimis more than anyone else in this sequence, and so this is the leg that I'm going the shortest in. That's why I'm not using Stubbins. Look, Kentucky Downs is wildly difficult if you were trying to play lower cost, pick 4, pick 5 tickets. There's a lot of races where you could use 6, 7, 8 horses. It's really easy to put up a $300 pick 5 at somewhere like Kentucky Downs. In this case, I wanted to make sure my pick 4 didn't get out of control, and I have more faith in Imprimis than I do in my top picks in other races. So that's kind of why I ended up going shorter here. This race is obviously wide open. I'm not gonna knock you for using Got Stormy. I'm gonna go in a different direction, but I'm not gonna knock you for it. I wouldn't knock you for using Front Run the Fed. I wouldn't knock you for using Casa Creed. I wouldn't knock you for using Stubbins. I think they're all usable. But for me, there was one horse that kind of snuck in front of all of those. And when I looked at this race, what stuck out to me was, how is there not more speed in this spot? I mean, there's just not a lot of speed. And that points me to the 3-horse Bombard, who I think is going to get a really nice trip up front. I think the 3 with Flavian Pratt Bombard gets to the lead. I think this horse ran second last year in this race, missing by a neck to Imprimis, dead heated with Front Run the Fed. So I don't have any issue around the Kentucky Downs side of it. The horse has run 2 very nice races. Gregorian Chant beat him 2 back, just nipped him. Gregorian Chant was on a 2-race winning streak and turned out to be a pretty darn good turf sprinter. Like the fact that we're coming out of 6.5 at Santa Anita, going wire to wire in the Grade 3 Daytona. I have a feeling this horse is going to be fired up, ready to go. And Sons and Daughters of Warfront have been sneaky good at Kentucky Downs. So I think all systems go on the 3 Bombard. I'm going to hope he can wire the field, or the Great Imprimis is the one who can nose him out.
What do you think about the 5 Born Great? I used 4 horses. This is the 4th one on. This is one that I think can make sure Bombard doesn't get away with too easy of a lead, which is one of the reasons I didn't use Bombard in this spot. I think that Born Great has got tactical speed. I love the Adam Beskidzis 2 for 3 on him. The one time he lost was by a neck 2 back. I usually don't like the Ellis Park horses when they come to Kentucky Downs out of those preview races, which is kind of funny because that's the races you're supposed to use as launching pads to Kentucky Downs. But this horse I do like because I thought he was a clear runaway winner. 5.5 looked like it was no problem for him. He could have run another maybe 1 or 2 more furlongs with ease, which translates well to Kentucky Downs, where he broke his maiden last year and then literally a week later came back and won again by an even bigger margin against Straight Allowance Company. So I really like him in this spot. But I think the tactical speed makes sure Bombard doesn't get away. Were you worried about Born Great pressing Bombard at all, or do you think Bombard's just too fast?
I think Born Great's a lot slower, and I think it's in Born Great's best interest not to press Bombard. because I think that it makes much more sense to sit a length back and say, I'm going to try and beat you, and if I don't, I'm second, right? And versus trying to go right to his throat latch and see if and make this a pace tool. I think it makes a ton more sense to say, I'm going to just ease off a little bit. I looked at Born Great, and my biggest issue, and look, this horse is improving, and Ellis Park is the #1 meet that winners are coming from right now at Kentucky Downs.
Really? Wow, okay.
Ellis Park is #1 over Saratoga, over everywhere else. Kind of crazy to think about because I did not expect that. But right now, Ellis Park is the track that's firing here. Look, this horse needs to run a career best effort by a significant amount to be able to be competitive against this field. And that to me was the biggest issue. And I could see some improvement angles, but man, you have to get a lot better. And I know he's 2 for 2 over the track, but those 2 races were against much worse. And he did run his career best buyer over this track, so I don't want to completely dismiss him. But again, I think this is a pretty good field. I think you've got some world-class sprinters in here, and this is a big-time step up.
The last horse that I'm going to use is one that you laughed about when you saw the 4-gear jockey. Just like Born Great, third start off the bench. This horse has been improving back-to-back career best buyers at age 4. 96 for beating optional claimers at Saratoga, and then I got third in the Troy. He was off slow in that race, finishes third behind Fast Boat, who neither of us are using, and Karatari, who's a horse I love. Not only the distance should be an issue, I love that this horse is 10 for 11 in the money and turf races. He's 3 for 11 winning. That Saratoga training track turf work, 47 flat on August 27th. I think that Rusty Arnold's going to have this horse really geared up. He's a son of Twirling Candy, so you know he's going to love this turf course here. I think that he's pretty strong. You don't like him here. You laughed at me for using him. Why was that?
I would take any other horse out of that race over Gear Jockey. I mean, the race 2 back where you point to that and you're like, oh, huge improvement, ran great. Shaky Shabazz was not able to win that entire meet. He kept quitting at Saratoga, and closers were really doing significantly better. Horses from off the pace were doing significantly better when that turf was a good turf. The last race in the Troy, I think the number is kind of inflated because it's a stakes race. He's never run that before. Yeah, maybe he puts a 4th improvement back-to-back races. But again, this horse is facing to me a lot better, and I realize I say that, and I'm using Imprimis out of that race, but that was not Imprimis's best effort. Had a little bit of trouble. So for me, it's like I feel like Gear Jockey has to take a massive step forward, and I just don't see him being able to do it on this turf course. I mean, this is a tough spot to take big steps forward. You've never run here before.
Definitely. Before we move on, I want to touch on something. You're going to think I'm making fun of your Bombard pick, and I'm not. Through race 7 today, I was keeping track. Posts 1 through 3, if they're going 8 furlongs or less, they're 4 for 90 at the meet right now. So the inside posts are very bad. However, the one time I think that it's not a bad situation to be 1 through 3 is when you have speed. And the reason I think the problem, and Mike, you can expound on this, why the inside posts 1 through 3 are doing so poorly at this meet is because they get buried inside with these huge fields. And if you're not fast out of the gate, you're going to get stuck and inside and behind a bunch of horses, and it's too hard, especially when you've got closers like Diamond Oops or Fast Boat, who are going to have to go all the way around the outside of horses, like all the way to the outside of the pack, and then past them. I think that's why they're struggling. Do you have an insight as to why the inside posts are not doing well?
Well, the other thing you have to remember is that a lot of times the first turn in a mile race at Kentucky Downs is actually favoring the outside posts. Kentucky Downs is one of those funky tracks. When you look at it on DRF, you actually have a turn in the backstretch that goes up. So you actually want to be toward the outside rail for that first turn and then the inside rail. So the inside and the outside post positions at a mile in a lot of ways are kind of even because on one you're going to be outside, the other inside. I'd be interested to see how speed horses are doing specifically on those inside 3 posts, if that's where those wins have come from, because I would kind of expect that. Or if it's during sprints, again, here the 1 post is significantly better than the 12 post because you're almost at the top of that turn. So to me, I think a lot of it depends on where those races broke from because that would change what I would think of that statistic pretty significantly.
Well, that's going to lead perfectly well into the next race here, the Grade 2, a $1 million Calumet Turf Cup. This is race 9 on the Kentucky Downs card. Field of 12 males, 4 and up, plus 4 also eligibles. Trying to go a mile and a half on the turf course, the Breeders' Cup win, and you're in for the turf. Favoritism is on number 5, Arklow at 3-1. He's won this race twice in the past. Number 3, Channel Cat, second choice at 9-2. He is my top pick. I went too deep here, and I know you like Channel Cat as well, but was he your top pick?
No, he wasn't. I'm going to stick with Arklow. I was really impressed with Arklow in this race last year. I think that Arklow was kind of in a nice form. And what you kind of look at is that Arklow's form is kind of similar to what it was going into this race. He ran the United Nations both years. He ran a decent race in the United Nations and took a step up in the Kentucky Turf Cup. If you look at the last time, ran the United Nations, shipped across the country. I just don't think he really liked the Del Mar turf course. He had to angle wide. They went pretty quick at the end of that race. So I think you can make an excuse for what happened there in the Del Mar handicap for Arklow. So I'm going to kind of give him a pass there and say getting back to Kentucky Downs is kind of what he's looking for. This horse absolutely loves this surface. 2 for 3 career, ran a 102 buyer winning this race last year. So I do like Arklow quite a bit. I actually have a price here in second. Imprimador on the rail, I think has got a absolutely huge chance to run a monster race. 15-1. Look, I like the Lobo barn. I think that you don't hear enough about Paulo Lobo all the time, but he can get a horse ready when he wants to. 21% trainer. Talamo stays on this horse and is riding through it. We're getting second off the layoff for a 5-year-old. This is the son of Treasure Beach, which is the son of Galileo. That's another line I like on this turf course. Coming out of the United Nations, ran very well, runs a career best 99 buyer, is about to take a step up. And what else I like is when you look way back in the past performances, when he's running overseas, he's running in grade ones down in Argentina at 1.5 miles and 1.25 miles on the turf. And I realize, Argentina is not the best example here, but those longer distances are where he's running his best races. I think that he wants to go long. I think this distance suits him very well. I like that effort in the United Nations, and a step up puts him right in here with anybody. And we're sitting at 15-1. So I'm going to include the 1 on my ticket as well.
This is the other horse I used. I went Channel Cat on top and Imperador. For all the reasons that you mentioned. You touched on his breeding, Mike. This is the only horse in the entire field with European breeding on both sides. I love that about this horse. At the great tactical speed, he's on the up and coming. The United Nations has been huge. The 4th place horse won a Saratoga Stakes. The 9th place horse almost won the Del Mar handicap. The 10th place horse won a stakes at Delaware, for crying out loud. I mean, the United Nations, we didn't think it was that great when we saw it. Tribune didn't come back to do very well, but everybody else apparently was pretty live out of that spot. I think Channel Cat has a good chance to go gate to wire here. I think he's faster than Tide of the Sea, and I think if Luis Saez puts Tide of the Sea in the race with Channel Cat, neither one of them are going to have a shot in hell of trying to do it. Mike Maker, by the way, is only got, coming into today, 1 win from 24 starters, but has hit the board in 12 of 24 races. He's got 5 in here. I didn't use any of them. I didn't use a single Mike Maker horse. And we had talked about on Twitter, someone asked us about tips for playing Kentucky Downs. I can't remember if it was you or I, but someone said play the Makers. And I'm sitting here going, I really hope that wasn't me because I'm passing on all 5 of them.
I know. I said Maker is usually a good angle when you're going to Kentucky Downs. He's won the last 3 training titles there. He's 17% with if you take out his first-time starters, he's close to 26% at the racetrack. He's 0 for 32 the last 3 years with first-time starters. Crazy stat there. But yeah, I'm not using any of the Makers here either. I just don't. I think they're a cut below.
Wow.
I think that Tide of the Sea is the other horse that look, you got at least three Makers that really want to close here. So I think Tide of the Sea is almost a rabbit for them. But there is not much pace here. You know what Channel Cat can do? Sit behind a rabbit and win. That's the thing. Is the Channel Cat isn't dependent on needing the lead. I do think there's a devoid of speed in this race. So I see it one of two ways. Either Channel Cat makes the lead and he's ultra dangerous, or Channel Cat sits right behind Tide of the Sea, and guess what? He's ultra dangerous. So I'm not sure how you keep the 3 Channel Cat off your ticket just because of the pace setup and the situation. And this is kind of crazy. I know we got comments going on. We got Kentucky Downs going right now. We've had 2 gate scratches yesterday.
Is that what happened? I was watching the chat and everybody's mad about scratches, and I'm like, I thought they were talking about our race.
No. So the first off, and I agree with both these guys. I thought the 6 and the 7 were live here in this Kentucky Downs race. The 7 scratches out first, and the 6 overreacts, then the 6 comes out, and so now it's like Coffee Maker, who was the heavy favorite going into this. Unfortunately, I have in my pick 5s. Is now with like those 2 horses. All those tickets are also on Coffee Maker too. And Ward was talking this 10 horse up quite a bit here. But so hopefully we can still get the 5 home. But yeah, this is a lot of scratches going down right now. Anywho, the other horse that I like in here, and this is one that we talked about last time, Crossfire Hurricane. Okay. This horse, we talked about how Mike McCarthy ran it in the Shoemaker Mile the first time over here, comes out in a grade 1, doesn't do that much, is off slow, has some issues. He puts it right back in the grade 2 Del Mar handicap. Horse ran pretty darn well when you go back and you watch that race. The Crossfire Hurricane was able to close into the pace, able to get close to horses like Arklow, who I'm using in this, is one of my must uses. So I feel like including this horse, especially at 21 to price, is awfully interesting. On top of that, we get to add Flavian Pratt like that. And oh, by the way, let's go back to see some of the races that this horse was running in, but let's do it in Ireland, where there was significantly better routing on the turf. This horse wins at 1.25 miles, then jumps up into a Grade 1, $841,000 race. Yeah, ends up running 10th at 14 lengths back, but was only 8-1 in that spot. I mean, the horse got bet in a Grade 1, $800,000 race over in Europe. If we take a step forward, second off the layoff, second in the 4-year-old campaign for the Kitten's Joy, this horse at 20-1 is awfully live.
Was it the Del Mar handicap that it must have been when we were talking about him, because I remember him when I was handicapped. I was like, God, I know we've talked about this horse, because we both liked that he was coming from the Joseph O'Brien barn, that he was bred in Kentucky, and they said, no, we're going to go to Europe with this horse that has 0 European breeding, at least initially. I didn't use, but is very intriguing at 20-1. Especially because Pratt's getting up. That Del Mar handicap race is, I still don't know what to do with it, because everybody was like in a blanket finish. I mean, Arklow this horse was 8th and he was beaten 2 lengths. I mean, the closers at Del Mar especially had a really tough time this year because the turns are tight. The stretch is short. So when you see Arklow getting 7th and this horse getting 8th and they're trying to close from the clouds, I'm not using them because I still don't know how to handle this race, but it sounds like you're kind of bumping it up a little bit there.
Yeah, I am. Look, Astronaut was 20-1 in that spot. We were, I think, live on the air for that race, and the horse was able to get up at a monster number. The second place horse, Masterpiece, right? Yeah, Masterpiece was the horse that was coming out of the Chad Brown barn, the 6th horse that ran second, like 15-1 or so, who I liked in that spot, who was in the Michael McCarthy barn. So I think this horse ran well in that race. You're getting back into this one. I mean, I think it all kind of fits together that he's expecting improvement. And if you're looking for a European-style horse on a European-style turf course, and you're getting a European jockey and 20-1, I take a little bit of a swing.
Yeah. Listen, I don't hate it. I looked at this horse pretty closely. I looked closely at him. I looked closely at the 9, Glynn County, too. If I was going to use one maker, this is actually the horse I would have used. I think this horse has got good tactical speed. I think he was sneaky good in the Mr. D when there wasn't any pace. Domestic Spending, you remember, was trying to close into 26-second fractions throughout the whole race. Glynn County was trying to close too. He didn't quite get there, but he doesn't have to be Domestic Spending to win this. He's got wins over the distance. Did you look at Glynn County at all?
I did. I looked at all the makers, and I kind of at one point got a little downgraded them all because there's 5. If that sounds weird, I like. There's just so many Mike Maker horses. If you're overly confident in any one of them, why are they all here? I thought Glynn County and A Journey to Freedom were the 2 most interesting, the 8 and the 9. And so I could make an argument for the 9, but like I would use Epic Bromance before I would use Glynn County because the race 2 back. And that was one of his best races. Like, you know, so it's like, do I really think that there's another step forward here in this race, or that this was the goal? Because if I thought this was the goal, then I could make a case for why Glynn County is still improving. But the Grade 1 United Nations and the Grade 1 Mr. D, those were probably the plan. You know, this wasn't the goal. So it's tough for me to just think that this 9 horse can take another step forward against what I think a field is pretty tough. And if this was the goal, why are there 4 other makers in here? Like it doesn't make sense to have 5 horses.
In Maker's defense, if you think Mike Maker, you think running long on the turf. So. That's why I think he's here, is with all these, because where all the hell is he going to run, you know, all of his long turf horses for Grade 1? I'm guessing that you guys needed the 5 there. Griffin's celebrating.
Yeah, I had the 5 and the 10, and with all of those scratches, all those bullets go onto the 10 in the pick 5, and so I did not want that 10 to win. The 5, even at 5-2 versus 9-5, is a significant difference. 5 was also 5-1 before all those scratches happened. So there was a lot more money that came in on the 5 after the scratches, which makes sense when the 6 and 7 were prices.
Before we move on, Dennis says Maker versus the field. Dennis, if you think up a good bet, Mike and I will take it on air for you. So think up something good before the show ends. We'll move on. Race 10 at Kentucky Downs on Saturday, September 11th. This is the Grade 2 $600,000 Franklin-Simpson Stakes. Told you we were going to talk about it. Field of 11 3-year-old males, plus 1 female, plus 3 also eligibles, going 6.5 furlongs around the turf course. Favoritism, number 10, Point Me By at 7-2. Remember this horse having that really nice win at Arlington Park. Number 7, Annex, is the second choice at 9-2. Mike, there are 3 horses in this race with Timeform US early pace ratings of at least 100. 2 of them are from Wesley Ward. What do you think happens here?
I think the price wins.
I'm with you.
Give me the 15-1 5-horse, Miss Amulet.
Yes.
Oh no, you're on it too?
Love this horse.
Not because I'm mad you love it, because that means we're not getting 15-1. This horse came over to the U.S. for one race. It was at Keeneland over the good turf there. Horse ran well, ended up running third.
What was that race called?
The Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Fillies. I think you've heard of it before.
Might be a good race. Okay.
Maybe it's an okay race. A horse made a good push there. Hasn't run as well as a 3-year-old. That would be the one major concern here. But they thought highly enough of this horse to put it in the Darley July Cup Stakes, which is, oh, by the way, a $710,000 Grade 1 race over there in Great Britain. Look, we've seen what happens when the good European horses come over to the U.S., and I'm going to reiterate that I think European horses have an even bigger advantage at Kentucky Downs than they do at somewhere like Saratoga, at somewhere like Del Mar. So if I'm getting a horse that ran well at Keeneland in one of the biggest turf races of the year for that specific age and sex, and now we're coming over and we're going to run a Kentucky Downs in a big-time purse, I kind of like this horse. The fact that Julian Leparoux is also riding it, has experience riding it, did that back at Keeneland last year, makes me like this horse even more. The 15-1 price kind of just puts me over the top. So, yeah, I think Miss Amulet's got a huge shot here at 15-1, and I hope we get somewhere near that.
She also, not only was the Darley July Cup Stakes a Grade 1 worth $710,000, it was against older horses, open company, not straight females. She's against open company again here, but against straight 3-year-olds. Huge class drop, tremendous class drop here. Also, she should love the firm turf based on her breeding. Sir Prancelot has a lot of great California turf horses, specifically because he likes to breed those really good firm turf horses. Julian Leparoux's been doing really well at the meet. By the way, did you see the thing that was passing around yesterday where the graphic at Kentucky Downs said that Julian Leparoux was gelded?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Yeah, it was describing the changes for a horse and it said jockey Julian Leparoux, gelded. They were supposed to be like the horse got gelded and Julian Leparoux was riding, but it looked like, and so it got passed around to the point that he and his wife were both like replying and they were being good sports about it. Anyways, I wasn't sure if you saw it or not. I apologize because I thought I wrote down the wrong number. I thought that we had full agreement here. We don't, but I'll go ahead and talk about the horse that we do agree on past this one. The 10 Point Me By, 7-2, your favorite. Listen, you talked about it after the Bruce D Stakes when he won, Mike, that this horse was probably the one that you wanted out of that race because it was only his third career start, second time facing winners. The horse is now 2 for 3 in his lifetime. Clearly looks like he's a lot better than his $30,000 purchase price. Louis Saez is picking up the mount. I like that we're outside when we're going this distance here. Did I miss anything that you like?
No, I think you're going to get a little bit better of a price than you did that day. I was kind of against. I liked this horse before the betting started, and then once the betting had come in, I wasn't as big of a fan. I didn't love that. I think it was 8-5 in that race.
Yep.
Which I thought was a little bit short for a horse that's just unproven. But at this spot, at the cutback, I think is a good fit. I'm hoping we get somewhere around 7-2. I do think the Point Me By ends up going off your favorite here, but I think Point Me By is too tough not to use in this spot. So I'm going to start out with the 5 and the 10. I am going to use a third horse here. I'm going to go ahead and use the 7-horse Annex. Look, I like that last effort, especially. Public Sector is a very good horse. I like the fact that we're cutting back. This horse also seems to like a firm turf course significantly better than a good turf course, which kind of gives me an excuse for why I didn't kick two back at Belmont. I think shortening down, hopefully catching a firm turf course, Son of Constitution. Alvarado comes and takes the mount for Mott. This will be his first mount at Kentucky Downs. He's specifically coming in to ride Annex. I think this horse is pretty live here, and so I'm going to play Annex to 7 at 9-2 as well to cover my 5 and my 10.
Boy, I initially thought I was going to use Annex, but my issue with him is he started out so strong, right, winning 3 straight. 2 of those were stakes at Gulfstream Park in the championship meet. Then he goes to Churchill Downs and he faces real turf horses, and he finishes 8th in a Grade 2. And then he tries the Grade 2 Hall of Fame at Saratoga, and he runs well behind Public Sector. But my issue with Annex, he hasn't actually beaten anybody who's really good. Annex loves to come running late. I'm a little worried that he's just going to leave himself with too much to do again. However, this horse might actually be best sprinting, and I'll be curious to see how he handles this 6.5, because when he's early in his career, going 2 turns on the turf, a lot of those horses at 3, they're still developing, right? They're still growing. He might have just been farther along at that point than they were and could handle routing better, which is why you've seen him drop off a little bit. Why am I making a goddamn case for your horse? Also, 47-1 work at Saratoga on September 4th. I think Mott's going to try and get this horse a little quicker.
I think so too. I think that the running style of Annex 2 is also going to be favorable in this specific spot. Going 6.5 at Kentucky Downs. he's not going to have, like, you're worried about how far back he is. He's going to get the trip here. And the nice part about Kentucky Downs is that long ass stretch with 7 cameras in it. For a horse that's closing, you can just save ground, and spin wide. And you have horses that are 4 and 5 lengths off the rail, or 4 and 5 path off the rail that are in the lead in a lot of cases. So I don't think you're going to lose that much ground. It's a lot easier to make a trip because this is a massive turf course with a huge stretch. Mm-hmm. So I'm not as worried about leaning on a horse that has to close. And I'm not as worried about getting a bad trip when you're doing that because of this specific course that we're running at.
The third horse I used, ended up putting on here, is the 3 county final for Steve Asmussen, Joel Rosario. And you don't think Steve Asmussen, Kentucky Downs winner, but he is 6 for 16, finishing first or second, including 3 wins at the meet. You know who's really goddamn good at Kentucky Downs right now? Joel Rosario. He's entering today, 1 win away from tying the meet record for wins. I like that this horse's second start as a 3-year-old is exiting a 7-furlong turf sprint. The longest this horse had ever run in his life was 7 furlongs at Woodbine. Very long stretch, right? Just like Kentucky Downs. Misses by a head to Gretzky the Great, who's a multiple stakes winning horse. This is going to be second start off of that long layoff, second start at age 3. They thought enough of this horse to spend $475,000 on him. Then they gelded him right before that Greenwood Cup at Woodbine. Should get a good stalking trip. I am a little nervous because he is post 1 through 3, and I brought up that hasn't been a good spot at Kentucky Downs. But I'm hoping that the bell curve, I catch him on the upswing here. The horse has run at Kentucky Downs before, didn't do all that well, was 4th beaten pretty good in the juvenile turf sprint last year, but maybe the firm turf will help him, like what he had at Woodbine, and gets that long stretch. We'll see. What did you think about the 3?
I was pretty sure you were going to use this horse when I saw Gretzky the Great, to be honest. I was like, oh, this is a magic horse. And you're getting second off a layoff, so I could make a logical improvement angle here. Problem is this horse needs to improve.
Yes.
And Woodbine horses were struggling at Saratoga, and Saratoga horses have been getting beat by Ellis horses at this meet. Like, you really got to expect that this horse can be able to take a big-time step up. And at 8-1, I'm not really interested in that. We also know how I feel about Steve Asmussen on the turf. For me, there's enough reasons to leave this horse off. If I was going to go one more deep, I'd actually go to the horse just the inside of that, the 2-horse, the Learjet. It kind of is the same case that I made for the 5-horse, Miss Amulet here. I think the Learjet is another horse that's coming from overseas, that's shown talent, that came over to run in a Breeders' Cup race, ends up running pretty good coming over here, has actually improved off that race, whereas the 5 is not. You haven't seen that form repeated yet. But I would kind of lean toward the 2-horse if I was going to use another here, or maybe even the 1 into the surprise or Sunrise. I think those would be the next 2 in over the 3.
Oops, sorry. I was looking for Dennis's comment. There it is. He said that 6.5 at Kentucky Downs is more of a 7 or 7.5 furlong race, especially, Mike, when the run-up is almost a half of a furlong. Yep. That was pretty ridiculous when I saw that.
And just to address this too, because I think it's a reasonably good question. Why do they go so wide from the 6 furlongs out of the gate? They actually, for 6 and 6.5 furlongs, they take a little bit of a turn, and the course, it also is a weird, almost a whale's hump type turn. Like, it's a bigger turn than the rest of the course when you actually look at the racetrack. And the inside isn't always the best lane, and jockeys don't always want to get caught on the inside. So you'll see the speed 3 or 4 lengths off the rail sometimes. So it kind of depends on where they're running. They also did something different this specific meet. So they had the rails, I think it was at 40 feet for the first 2 days. Then they moved them into 20 feet. So the inside paths were less torn up. But that also means they're deeper. So, yes, it's more pristine, but some people actually want to be outside a little bit, depending on how the races have gone. So you've seen jockeys specifically today take the overland route pretty often. So it's been interesting to kind of watch where people line up, where they try and run, and what will happen because they're taking the rails down to 0 feet Saturday and Sunday at the meet. So I'm interested to see how that kind of affects things, and if the rail issues continue to lend themselves to these rail horses, they aren't able to get the job done.
Well, we got one more race to talk about. Let's see if you picked the rail horse in the 11th and final race at Kentucky Downs on Saturday, September 11th. A field of 12 juvenile colts. None of them have lost their balls quite yet. Favoritism is number 10, Seal Beach. His odds are 9-2, Mike. That's how wide open this race is. And I went 4 deep, and I didn't even touch him on my ticket.
I went 5 deep, and he was the 5th one in. So there you go. This is a wildly difficult race. I mentioned Ellis Park doing well before. One of the reasons I'm going to go to the 1 horse is because of the Ellis Park form and how well it's held up. I'm going to go with the 1 horse on top, close knit here. Victoria Oliver has had a couple live runners here, hasn't been able to get anything home yet, but we're getting second start career. Bayerano has had a couple winners at the meets. I like Bayerano in that sense. It's a horse by Liam's Map, who should like this 1 mile distance. was forwardly placed in a race where I think you're going to see a couple speed horses, then absolutely nothing. So I think the one horse is going to get a really nice trip here. I like a couple first-time starters here, but I kind of feel like I kind of feel like you want horses to have experience unless you think it's a rock star of a first-time starter. So for me, I'm going to kind of lean on some of the horses that with experience. I'm going to use the one on top close knit.
So that race, that specific race at Ellis Park, the second, third, fourth, and fifth place finishers are all in this race. I chucked that whole race. This is the one horse I would have considered. By the way, Rafael Bejarano owns the record for the most wins at a meet at Kentucky Downs, so that's who Joel Rosario is chasing. I do not like the fact that Call Me Gusto in the Juvenile Mile was dead last here in his next start. Don't like that at all. Now, that isn't to say that it's going to mean the closeness is going to be last here as well, but I didn't like that, plus the rail draw. But trust me, if I'm going to pick one horse out of that race, it would have been this one. I just don't like this spot. I don't like the trainer a whole lot in this spot. I think if there was a different trainer, I probably would have used and maybe considered using this horse a little bit more than I did. Just nothing against Vicky Oliver. She's just kind of a low percentage and hasn't connected quite yet. But as you said, Mike, she has been a little close there. We agree on two horses here. Let's talk about one of them. My top pick, the 7, Tuskegee Cat. Wesley Ward, Florent Giroux. This horse is a half to multiple turf stakes winner named Uncle Benny. He was second in the 2018 Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. If you remember, he bumped with Some Like It Hot Brown in Line of Duty in that spot. Almost got bumped up to be the winner there, but he's exiting a key race at Churchill Downs going 5.5 furlongs. The winner by a nose and a neck over two horses that broke their maidens next out. This horse was 4th place in that spot. Was kind of sitting there in place. He kind of ran one pace a little bit. I think stretching out a little bit. I think the time since May is going to help this horse. Hasn't shown a lot of zip in the morning works, which is my one concern here. Wesley Ward, you think maybe they're going to be a little bit more, a little quicker than that. But I love that Wesley Ward actually moved this horse to Saratoga to train for a bit. That tells me he tried getting this horse to race at Saratoga, just couldn't draw in there. But the barn for Wesley Ward, 26% with second time starting 2-year-olds at the maiden special weight level. So for me, this was my top pick here. I went 4 deep, but did I miss anything about what you love about this horse?
To me, this was my second pick in the race. The other must use. To me, this is what the race this horse is coming out of. I mean, Overbore comes back to win $150,000 stakes at Belmont. Seize the Treasure comes back to win $100,000 maiden special weight at Churchill Downs. That's what you see on the page. Let's dig a little deeper. The 5th place finisher comes back and runs 4th in a $100,000 maiden special weight at Churchill. The 6th place finisher comes back and runs 3rd at a $30,000 maiden special weight at Presque Isle Downs. The 7th place finisher comes. They're so far back, I'm losing track of. The 8th place finisher, Never Say No, comes back and runs 2nd in a maiden special weight. I mean, even the last place finisher of this race comes back and runs 7th in a maiden special weight at Ellis. Not terrible. So this race proved to be a very, very, very good race. And when you see a race like that with 2-year-olds, you can often project that the other horses inside of it will improve. And so I would expect that the 7 takes a nice step forward. So I was 1-7 to start this thing out.
The other horse that we agree on is I believe the 9 horse, right? Did you use the 9?
I did use the 9.
Garmento, first-time starter for Brad Cox. Hey, Joel Rosario, we talked about him already. Brad Cox, 6 for 8, hitting the board with 3 wins and 8 starts at the meet. Garmento has one older sib. Don Alberto Corporation sold her for $500,000. And then they had this one, and they said, no, we don't want an extra $500,000. We want to keep this horse. The Dam Guapaza was a multiple graded stakes winner in turf routes. She was most recently with Chad Brown at the end of her career. Brad Cox, 25% with 2-year-olds. The rare time when a trainer is good at debuting horses at or over a mile, which is always a key angle for me to want to play against horses. Brad Cox, 16%. I think that's pretty damn good for this angle here. So that's why I like the 9, along with a fair 12-1 price. What about you?
This was one of the 2 first-time stars I just thought was interesting. And like you said, you get Rosario up. The distance should kind of hit this horse right between the eyeballs. I like starting at a mile here, even though I do think it's a tough distance to start at. But like all the numbers fit with Brad Cox. You like having Rosario. You like having the ownership group. So I think you hit the nail on the head in all of those. I'm going to talk about one other first-time starter. I'm going to talk about the 5 King Curlin a little bit. All right. So this horse, Curlin, stands for $175,000, and this horse sold for $25,000. Mm-hmm. Not usually a great sign. I'll usually talk about how I don't look for horses like that. Well, it goes to the Brittany Vandenberg barn. She's only a crisp 36% on the year. It's from a trainer perspective. She is bringing one horse to Kentucky Downs. Okay, you have the jockey who's coming in is Emmerich, who is a very good jockey at in the Midwest. He's clicking off at 21%. 2 of them together are clicking off at 35%. Guess how many mounts he has at Kentucky Downs.
I think it's just the one, right?
Maybe just the one, right? This horse is sitting at 12-1. Horse is trained very well over the synthetic at Arlington Park, running one bullet, having a couple other top 5 efforts, including a 47-1, 5 or 6 back. The turf effort, I think, look, he ran okay going over the turf, but that clearly is just a maintenance work going 5 furlongs. This horse is live. I don't know if the horse wins, but there's zero reason this horse ships from Arlington to run in this race, except they want to get it in a monster purse. And you know what? You know what you're getting yourself into entering in these races. You know they're going to be highly competitive. This 5 horse is live.
Boy, I really considered using the 5 for a while there. For every reason that you touched upon, including the reason why I left off, which is that this is a curling colt that went for 25. And it wasn't like some small Midwestern sale. This was OBS. The horse went for 25 grand. So that means all of the big bloodstock people in the world were there looking at this horse, and they all went, nah, 25 grand. You can have him. So, but you brought up incredible angles about why, and at 12-1, you're getting a fair price. So I don't hate the use.
Yeah, I usually, like I said, avoid these type of horses. Mm-hmm. But it goes to a good barn. You've got a good jock up, and they're shipping in just for this specific spot. They could run in a lot of other spots that are significantly easier. They're choosing to show up here and run in this place. So I think the fact that this is where you're debuting the horse tells me everything I need to know about how the horse is actually doing in the morning. And I trust her. I think she's shipping in a live horse here, and so I want every piece of it 12-1.
Dennis says he looked at the 5 horse, honestly, for 7 minutes. Dennis, I think you need your eyes fixed. The horse shouldn't need 7 minutes to be looked at. I used the 2 horse next up for me, Baj. I don't like that I'm using an inside horse. However, I told you I like if there's speed. This horse has got a lot of speed. Set the pace at Saratoga. Ended up fading, but only finishes 4th by 2 lengths, and that was going a mile and a 16th on the inner turf course. Tighter turn, shorter stretch. I think the horse got great experience there, showed speed. Manny Franco put the horse into the race. Saffie Joseph Jr., we talked about this a lot. He ended at Saratoga 1 for 40. Do you know in the past 5 months what his record was away from Saratoga? He won 23%. So it's not necessarily that Saffie went completely ice cold. He just couldn't buy a win at Saratoga. I'm going to go ahead and hope that that's the case. Coming down to Kentucky Downs with this horse where he already has a win from 6 starters at the meet. He's 24% with maidens making their second starts. But I understand if you don't want to use him because the inside post, because Saffie's been pretty cold at Saratoga. I get if that scares you off of this horse, which it did in this case.
I mean, speed was also holding very well when that horse ran at Saratoga, and it still did not do very well after getting a 25-second second and third quarter in that race. Also 32-1 in that spot. So that tells me that it wasn't expected to run very much.
Well, it's Saffie.
Combine that with the fact, look, it was Saffie. It should have been lower if that. But no. Combine that with the fact that you have other speed in here. Like, this isn't going to be a horse that's just loose on the lead, and the fact that you're not really cutting back in distance, right? If this was 6.5, I think it's a completely different conversation because you could say, hey, the mile and a 16th to 6.5 is really like a mile and 6 to 7 or 7.5, and so you're getting a nice cutback. But you're not. I mean, a mile at Kentucky Downs is like a mile and a 16th. And if you have a horse that's quitting who has to run up a hill to close a mile race, it's not what I'm looking for. I'm sorry. It's just not what I'm looking for. So for me, I decided to pass on the 2 for those reasons. I did end up using the 10 horse Seal Beach. Look, this horse has more speed than you'd expect. It's coming out of 2 pretty good races at Saratoga. We're getting first time turf, 2 sprints to a route. Those are all things that I like. Sale price was $75K off of a $7,500 standing price. Ran a 10-2 breeze at the OBS April sale and was one of the horses that really got talked about quite a bit in there. You have stakes winners. Our free roll is the dam of the grade 2 sprinter is a great dam. The dam is the mother of a grade 2 sprinter, our free roll, who has won both on turf and dirt in stakes and cashed over $600,000. I mean, there's just enough pedigree in the family that I think the 10 horse is one that I just can't leave off.
I see. I looked at the 10's pedigree, and that's not at all what I found. The dam was unraced. There's no sibs to race for this horse, and the Grand Dam didn't win past 5 furlongs on turf. Were you looking at a different horse?
First full to an unraced dam, second dam, stakes win, sprinting turf and dirt.
Oh, sorry, second dam. I'm sorry. I must have missed that. I thought you just said his first dam. I'm sorry.
And then dam, the grade 2 sprinter, our free roll. Yeah, so the second dam is the one that has all the precociousness.
My one concern with Seal Beach, and aside from the price, Mike Maker, he's good on turf. Why is this horse not just now in the third start going to be turf? I don't think turf was what they thought of this horse. I think they thought dirt was where it should go. 9-2, you're going to get probably a decent price on him here, but Irad's aboard for Maker. You'd think I'd love those angles, but the fact that we're going onto turf in the third start, we're going to a mile for the first time, and the immediate family, wasn't impressed with. The Grand Dam was good, but again, 5 furlongs was as far as she could win on turf. So I'm not sold on this horse, but I mean, you talk about the OBS sale. If the horse was turning heads, then maybe this horse has talent. They just need to figure out what it's good at.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're taking a swing here. I think the added distance might help, and I think that, again, I want horses who have experience. I like the 2 sprints to a route here because I think you've got a little bit more foundation under this horse than you do anyone else except for the 4 and the 8 horse. I looked at the 8 horse a little bit. I will say that. If someone scratches out of this last, the 8 horse may be the one that ends up making out my ticket. Not a huge Kenny McPeak fan, but he can get a horse home. Leparoux takes them out. The 2 back on the turf was a good effort. The last one, you just draw a line through. The horse had no interest running on the dirt, right? So I think you could make a case for the 8 if you wanted to here.
Well, this is my 4th and final horse in, so thanks for making the case. No, that F2 back at Colonial Downs is what caught my attention. Pressed the pace, ended up weakening a little bit, but first-time starter and their routing, you can be pretty forgiving of that. The 5th and 7th place horses from that race, they both won next out. The 1st and 2nd place horses haven't raced since then, so I was like, well, those guys didn't. Well, they haven't raced, so that's their excuse there. Kenny McPeak is 4% dirt to turf. I'm going to ignore that angle, Mike, because this horse originally started on turf, and they kept him in an off-turf race. So I'm going to forget that. Scratch that race out exactly like you said.
Okay. I'll allow it. It's not really a dirt to turf effort. It's a fake dirt to turf effort.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thanks for joining Mike and I to go through the late pick 4 sequence at Kentucky Downs on Saturday, September 11th. If you're watching live or the replay, thanks so much for catching up with us on the video side. Give us a like, a thumbs up, subscribe to the Racing Dudes YouTube channel. If you're not already, click the notification bell. Anytime any of us goes live, which we had 4 shows, plus Dr. Miranda, which wasn't live but uploaded. So 5 shows today. You get alerted every time one of those pops up there. We're going to go give our tickets one last time. It's just below here. I'll start off 4-5, 9-11 with 1-3, with 3-5-10, with 2-7, 8-9. That's a $48 ticket. Mr. Samich.
I'm going to play a 50-cent ticket. I'm going to go 3-12 with 1-2-3-5 with 5-7-10 with 1-5-7-9-10 for 50 cents. That'll cost you $60.
And like Mike said, you can go easily spend $500 on these tickets sometimes trying to get it home at Kentucky Downs. If there's a horse that you like that we didn't talk about or didn't like, but the horse is a price, play it. I mean, these things are freaking hard to cash in on. So if you like a price horse, by all means, use it if you're liking the horse. Later this, let's see, Blinkers Off just ended right before we came live, so you can check them out. Rocket Hour. What's that?
You sure they're not still going?
I don't know. We'll see. Aaron popped in the background. Maybe they just took a break because he left again. Let's see. Dudes Who Bet Sports was live that Aaron and Papa Dude were talking about NFL. And we actually have a question from Griffin. Any NFL plays tonight, Mr. Samich? I know it's the big opening night for you.
I tweeted this out earlier today. I don't know what the line is right now. I know it started today at 8 points, and it's moved up to at least 9.5 last I saw. I like Tampa in teasers, so I used Tampa in a teaser with. I used them with 3 different teams this weekend. I like Tampa tease down. I like the 49ers tease down. I like the Rams tease down. And I like the Washington Redskins teased up. You can tease those all through 2 key numbers. So I was going for those 2. There's an interesting prop on Bovada, 8-1 that Mike Evans and Didi, I can't remember his last name right now. I can't remember. Didi something, the wideout for the Cowboys, both get 50-plus yards and score a touchdown is 8-1. I kind of like that. I think that you're going to see Tampa Bay pretty much control the game start to finish. But I do think that you're going to catch a touchdown or 2 from Dallas, and I think they're going to be throwing touchdowns. The game I actually like tonight, let's go a little off the board. You know who sucks at football?
The Lions?
Kansas. CeeDee Lamb. There it is. Thank you. CeeDee Lamb and Mike Evans over 50 yards and a touchdown. Kansas sucks at football. Pretty heavy. Like, they're really not good at football at all. Coastal Carolina, pretty good. You know what happens when you get these non-power conference teams playing a power conference team? They like to win by a lot. They're giving 26.5 tonight. They will cover that. They're giving 16 in the first half. They will cover that. I'm taking Coastal Carolina. That game kicks off in about 1 hour.
Perfect. Well, let's see if you can parlay it into next week when they play Roast Beef State. You can follow us on Twitter. I am at Curtis Kellaward. He is at SummerBomb18, number 1, number 8. Corporate Overlords at Racing_Dudes. Go to RacingDudes.com. We have you covered with picks across the country, including the Summer Bombs. Mike, I'm guessing you're going to Kentucky Downs this weekend.
I am, but we're doing a quick little stopover at Gulfstream Park because there's not much running tomorrow. So we're going to head back to the old stomping grounds of Gulfstream Park, and then we're going to head over to Kentucky Downs after handicapping a little bit of Canterbury so we can get that going.
Thanks again, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you back here on Monday at 5:30 and 2:30 Pacific. Until then, I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
Good luck this week.